In Search of the Source, Chapter 6, The Bete of Hard Work. Hapele, Isa, and I looked out the Bible house window. It's not really a window, more like part of the wall that opens like a big flap with a rope and a pulley. When it's open, it adds space to the small office and gives a spectacular view of the valley falling away beneath us. With jungle-covered mountains to the horizon, the terrain is rough but majestic, like Eden after the caretakers were gone. We'd been with Adam and Eve all morning. God was there too, handing down the curse. Pre-lunch hunger pangs were jabbing my empty stomach, which was grinding, trying to digest itself. We were ready for a break, but discipline kept us going just a little longer. Adam had fallen, he'd bitten the fruit. The serpent had fallen, and he'd bitten the dust. Our first forefather, representing us all, had broken the law that God was obligated to punish. As a race, we wanted our eyes opened to have knowledge of good and evil, and this was our price to pay. We hadn't known how good we had it until we knew evil, and then it was too late. Now we knew evil, and the consequences of disobeying God were set in motion for all time. As for Eve's part, God decreed pain in childbearing and told her, "Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." No surprises for the men there. We continued on. To Adam, he said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat of it all the days of your life." As we worked through that, I noted that Hapele and Isa's attentions had gone out the window. Quiet as the distance, their minds were on something. My stomach growled again. The humidity was climbing and it was getting hot. I glanced at my watch and moved on. "It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field." Thorns and thistles are familiar realities. In this country, sting nettles are a bane of the trail. The path gets rough in places, and if you put your hand out to steady yourself or brush a bare leg against a bush, you may have a painful reminder for hours. Bare Falopa feet are vulnerable to thorns, no matter how calloused and tough the soles. We trudged on, just one more verse of the curse, then lunch. "By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." There, we were finished for the morning. I moved my chair to get up, but Isa was gazing out the window again, and Hepele was looking down at what we'd just worked through. He read it aloud. "By the sweat of your brow you will eat your bread." "Yeah," I said. "What does that mean to you?" Hapele looked up at me, paused for a moment, and then said, "Nothing." "I don't get it either," Isa pitched in. "You don't get what?" "This part about the sweat of your brow. What's that have to do with anything? What does it mean? You eat food with it?" I looked again. The words were right. The grammar seemed pretty good. Maybe it was the idiom. "You don't eat food by the sweat of your brow," I explained, "but that's how you get your food." "Oh. Do you understand it?" I asked. "No." But we were both perplexed. It seemed pretty straightforward to me. How could I explain it any clearer? Then it hit me. These people don't associate sweat with work. I noticed the small beads of sweat on Hepele's forehead. It was the same on Isa's. Here in the tropics, where temperatures can soar, and the humidity with it, you don't have to work to sweat. You can perspire just sitting in your houses. We were perspiring now. I tried again. "The ground is cursed. I said, and because of that, man now has to go through great strain to get anything out of it. It's going to tax all his strength. I knew it was part of the Filopo worldview that they are under some kind of a curse, that there is a punishment out there for something which they're suffering under. All this is a central theme to our thinking, but its origin has always been a mystery to them. They have a few myths about it, but nothing very satisfying. Hapele turned his faraway look back at me. That's really true, he said. He pointed broadly with his chin. Do you see those gardens out there? Yes, I saw them. Not that they particularly stood out. They were tiny in the distance and appeared about as rough as the rest of the terrain, but for the cleared trees. That's hard work, he said, but we have to keep at it. Food doesn't come up by itself. There's not much food coming up by itself in the jungle. Maybe some berries, but sweet potatoes, taro, yams, they don't grow by themselves. That takes hard work. We've got to make gardens. We've got to cut down huge trees, chop off the limbs, and clear it out of the way. The trunks have to be rolled off to the edge and stacked up for fences to keep the pigs out. He looked at me. That's really hard work. Right, I nodded, and you work up a sweat while doing it. I suppose, he said, but we don't say that. What do you say? We say, Depe tuko walapo. We burst our stomach. Now there was an expression I could relate to. In colloquial English, we say busting your gut. And it fits. Out here in the gardens, you can hear it. The men cutting, hauling, digging, heaving, muscles stretch like bands, teeth clench, vessels bulge, throats grunt, stomachs break. We crossed out what we had on the draft and rewrote it. No longer will your food just come up by itself, but by bursting your stomach, you will do your work, raise your food, and you will go on like that until you die and become part of the ground again. With that, it all made sense. We took our lunch break, and by the sweat of my brow, I was ready for it. As we separated, Hapele and Isa lingered a bit with people milling around the path. In fact, they called a small crowd together. I overheard their conversation. Do you know what? Hapele and Isa were saying. It is God that has us under this curse. That's what we translated today. It was because of the first people. They disobeyed. They ate what they weren't supposed to eat, even though it came up free. God punished them, so nothing would come up free anymore. That is why it is only by bursting our stomachs we get our food. That's all I heard of it, but I could see that another new understanding had come to the village that day, and one more significant than I might have realized. I grew up knowing these things, so I couldn't always foresee when there was going to be a significant breakthrough in understanding. For them, this was a new bete, and an understanding of the basis for the human predicament. I sat at lunch and talked to Carol about it. I was tired but content. We had both put in a full morning, me at the translation table with the men, Carol in the house with the children and their schoolwork. But, like God, when he'd finished his work, looked at it, and called it good, I was satisfied. Only we weren't finished, not by a long shot.